Welcome to another installment of the Rude Dog Show. I am Rudy Reyes, and another beg, borrow, and steal with an intent to return the barnburner.ca Facebook fan page. Of course, back to barnburner.ca. I'm live on Facebook. This is Rudy Reyes on the Rude Dog Show. Look, unless you missed the website, or besides maybe what you see or what you hear, all even including the great concept and the great content that barnburner.ca brings you can use your website to maybe use some upgrades. Well, everybody wants an upgrade. Why not upgrade your website at iQuestmedia.ca? Go check them out. They have the expertise, customization to get you what you need. iQuestmedia.ca can do it all. Thank you for tuning in to the show today. Of course, waiting for a gentleman to call in who knows this team inside and out. Of course, you're talking about a team that most people in Los Angeles will probably be familiar with, and that is not the Los Angeles Chargers. Did I say that correctly? Not the Los Angeles Chargers. It is the now Los Angeles Rams. Jim Everett should be calling in here momentarily to talk about the Rams, who played with them under center as a quarterback from 1986 to 1993, and now obviously what the Rams fans have been dying for, waiting for, finally get their wish come true. Now 2 years, well, almost 2 years here in Los Angeles. Of course, we go from 0 to 2 when we're talking about a team here in Los Angeles. I think the big draw for the Chargers to come was because the Los Angeles Rams were already here. And that fans in San Diego, despite them not wanting to go, despite them sending out messages to congressmen, to local city officials, and other alike, did not really get their team to stay. I think it had a lot to do with ownership, wanting to move out to Los Angeles. Why? Because there's a new stadium that's going to be broken, at least the ground will be broken here in Los Angeles a lot sooner here than later. Welcome. Thank you for tuning in. I know Jim Everett's a pretty busy guy, so he has all the time in the world to call in. I'll do my absolute best to make sure that I cover all the bases and really go back to what this Rams team has done, at least this season, when you look at what they've been doing, not only offensively, but defensively. Ended up in the top of the league, number 2, with as many interceptions. I don't think that any other team, other than maybe the losing, and I say losing, Baltimore Ravens in the AFC North, the NFC West is certainly along with the Seattle Seahawks following right behind them at 6-3. You look at this St. Louis Rams team and you think to yourself, are they for real? Are they as great as Drew Brees and Mark Green going to the Saints? We're going to talk to Bob Rhodes here in about 15 minutes past the hour, talking about the Saints, where they're at, who they belong to in the NFC South, and looking at who they really are as a team. And of course, staying here in Los Angeles for at least just a little bit longer, for about 10 minutes or so, talking about how the Rams, who have consistently desired to be here, to want a team, the Rams doing everything they can as being the kindred spirit that they are here in Los Angeles. Don't forget, they were here, but Jim Everett being the 2 years removed quarterback after the New Orleans Rams, the Los Angeles Rams were in Los Angeles. Of course, he went on to play for the New Orleans Saints. I think a lot of times when we look at teams in the NFL, are they going to last? Are they going to stay where they want to be at? Are they going to go somewhere else? So they really want to get what they're looking for when you're talking about fans in that respective city looking for an opportunity to get a team in that they need, that they want, that they desire. And I think here in Los Angeles, because the Los Angeles Chargers don't own that much ownership, you look at the Los Angeles Rams, you think to yourself, they're playoff bound. They really, truly are playoff bound. When I look at the Los Angeles Rams, I think to myself, they're leading the NFC West against the Seattle Seahawks, who are 6-3, and of course the Arizona Cardinals at 4-5. Of course, Cardinals losing a lot of components, not having the defense that they had last year. Drew Stanton hitting Larry Fitzgerald doesn't quite happen as often as you'd like to. But look, the Rams quite possibly could face the Minnesota Vikings traveling to U.S. Bank Stadium and playing against the Minnesota Vikings this weekend. I think it's probably one of the toughest contests for the Rams this year. And when I look at the keys to Jared Goff and the continued success this this coming Sunday at US Bank Stadium, I look for them to not really deviate from what they have been doing. Why? Because what they've been doing is very successful. And when I look at the LA Rams, of course, Jim Everett giving me the cue. He'll be calling in momentarily. No problem. We'll wait for Jim to call in. But I look at this Rams team and I think to myself, these guys are on a roll. They're on a run. Are they for real? Are they going to be the team that Los Angeles needs, wants, desires, much less the rest of the NFC conference? Look, this is great for the NFL. This is even greater for the Rams. It's greater for their fans. It's greater for anybody involved in the process. Don't forget, Sean McVay is a brand new coach under consideration for Coach of the Year. I've looked about it. I've talked about it. I've spoken about it. I've mentioned to quite a few people on not only the show but on social media, discussing with them exactly what their thoughts are, along with other constituents, about where Sean McVay ends up when you're talking about Coach of the Year conversation. We could talk about that at some other point here. And, of course, I do have the incoming call here. Welcome to the Rude Dog Show. Jim.
Rudy.
Hey, man. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How you doing, brother?
Man, hanging out, I hear this buzz in Los Angeles. The Rams are on top of the world right now. Should they be? Are they the real deal? Are they a contender to not only win the NFC NFC West, but really contend in the NFC for a playoff bid as well as maybe even a Super Bowl bid?
Well, I tell you what, they're certainly playing well, Rudy. They're executing. I think Houston threw a curve in the first half, and they came back and answered it. And so, good teams figure things out, and I thought at halftime they would go in and figure out all that man coverage because they were trying to pressure Jared. But, they answered a lot of points. So I think they're real.
I think they're real, too. You look at the LA Rams, they end up number 2 in the NFL for points being put up on the scoreboard in any given game this season. That is big for them. That is not something they've been able to do, couldn't do it under their other head coach, not named Sean McVay. But not to dwell on that, the guy who told Eric Dickerson he can stay off the field, but we won't go into that.
Hey, everybody makes mistakes.
Oh, yes, they do. I think that was a pretty monumental mistake, telling Eric Dickerson he can't be on the field. But again,
that's 2015 issues. They're doing good. The Rams are doing good. So there's other things to talk about. I think the direction that McVay has his team on is fabulous. You look what Wade Phillips is doing on that defense. Oh, shoot. I mean, you give the Rams a 14, 21-point lead, Aaron Donald and all the Quinn and those guys are eating those quarterbacks up.
No, they're definitely getting in the pass rush. They're getting back in the field. But more importantly, when you look at the secondary, they end up ranking probably the highest on interceptions underneath the Baltimore Ravens. Obviously, Ravens not doing so well this year, but the Rams find themselves great up front with Aaron Donald, great in the secondary. Is this Rams team in the NFC overall the team to beat this year?
I think they're one of them. I think there's a handful of guys, a handful of teams, put it that way. I think Philadelphia's playing awful well. That's going to be a good matchup. I think this game, this week, Minnesota is playing fabulous ball too, and they're playing there, and the whole deal's going to be tough. It always has been. But anyways, I think there's a handful that on any given day could play well. I mean, Dallas is good if they ever get their players back, which I get into the Zeke issue, which I totally disagree with. There's not a prosecution out there, but yet the commissioner is still committing 6-game fines. I don't get it.
I don't understand either. Look, everything that exhibited by Ezekiel Elliott in the running game, we're going to talk about Todd Gurley next, but you look at the running game, I think there should be a game plan overall, not only for Roger Goodell and handing down a suspension when whatever he had done was not in the NFL, was not during his time here in the NFL. You can't go retro and hold somebody responsible for something they had nothing to do with in the NFL. Collegiately, if the NCAA wanted to investigate, allow them to do it.
Well, you go on a bunch of different levels about what Article 46 with the players and the owners agreed to, that Roger Goodell could have utmost authority at the very end to do whatever he wanted to do. Which we talk talk about being patriots, we talk about our military, we talk about being American. But I don't think Article 46, in my humble opinion, is very American. Because that's a dictator, and that's one guy taking the whole thing in his hands. And I think that will eventually be the demise of Roger Goodell.
I do as well. Jerry Jones talking about suing other NFL teams if for some reason they put if they keep him in office, if they vote the majority, keep Roger Goodell in the office. But you can also take the other side of the coin to say, Roger Goodell's picking on Ezekiel Elliott. Is Jerry Jones fighting a fight that he can win with the NFL and or Roger Goodell?
I'll tell you what, there's few people in this world that want to have a fight with, and that's Jerry Jones.
With Jerry Jones, I mean, can Jerry Jones really win? I mean, he's not only fighting something as well, but Ezekiel Elliott's doing the very same thing. Article 46 is one of those things that are, you're right, un-American, but you can also put this back on the players who signed that CBA stating that Roger Goodell can be the judge, jury, and convictor. Does Roger Goodell get ousted at the end of the year?
Well, I'm not going to go on that prediction, just like I'm probably not going to go on the prediction who's the top team in the NFC. But there's some probabilities there that lead to an opening of the door. You know, if I'm Roger Goodell and I'm wanting $50 million a year and I want lifetime health care insurance, I'd probably watch out.
Well, there you go. Jim Everett telling it like it is here on the Root Dog Show. I like it, Jim. Thank you so much. I appreciate you taking your time out. Now,
Rudy, it's always good to be on. I mean, you go straight to the points. I love it. I think you're doing a good job and keep rolling. You know, the key thing is we're having this discussion. The Rams are successful, one of the top teams in the NFL, which I don't think 12 months ago we would need to have this discussion.
No, you're absolutely you're right about that. I appreciate the kind words. Thank you, certainly. Now, but in the season, Jared Goff has done absolutely everything that Sean McVay's asked him to do. You look at the Minnesota Vikings, you look at what they've been doing, you look at what they've been dealing with the quarterback situation, Teddy Bridgewater, Case Keenum, Sam Bradford. There's like a semi-quarterback roller coaster there going on in Minnesota. Who gets the start this Sunday against the Rams? Is it Case Keenum or is it Teddy Bridgewater? We may have lost. Nope. There he goes right there. Oh, sorry about that, Jim. I don't know what happened. He disconnected. But there's kind of a roller coaster going on right now with the Vikings. You have Sam Bradford, injured with a knee problem. He should have never started the game, by the way. You also look at Teddy Bridgewater coming back from a non-contact knee situation, blowing out 2 parts of his leg. Then you have Case Keenum, who's been winning for the Minnesota Vikings. Who gets a nod under center this Sunday against the Rams?
Okay, Case Keenum has for sure.
Well, he's been winning.
He's winning. He's doing what they're asking. I think he's going to have a big load in front of him when you're talking Aaron Donald and Quinn come at him. So, I mean, he better get rid of that ball quick. We talked about last week that Savage was going to get beat up, and he hung in there. But, man, there was a few times I was really worried about that guy's health. And I'll say the same thing with Case. If they get behind by 14 points, I mean, Case isn't going to be able to throw those dimes down the middle with no one on him.
No, you're right. Why? Because the Rams have been playing so well. They play great in man. They play great in zone. Do you think defensively they stay with the same formula that's got them to this point this year against the Vikings?
I think so. But if I'm Minnesota, I mean, I think you're looking at a team that the teams that have given the Rams a little bit of a fit is teams that can run the ball on. And that's what they have to be able to do. And that's what you kind of anticipate. And then play action pass. But you cannot let those guys just tee off and in a third and longs and stuff like that. They got to avoid that. Minnesota does.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. When you look at the keys to the success for the Rams on both sides of the ball, when you consider how this team is currently playing, do they continue utilizing Todd Gurley on the outside? Do they put him in the slot? Do they put him in the wide? Because he's been so successful on the outside so far this year.
I think they're an asset for Minnesota. You look at their part, it's their defense backs. And, their defense is going to probably our biggest challenge of the year. So this will be a good test to see exactly where the Rams are on the road and facing the defense at the top notch.
Yeah, I completely agree with that one. So would you suggest that the Rams are going to stick to the game plan defensively, offensively, and on special teams going into US Bank Stadium as they have up to this point?
I think you got to challenge, Case Keenum to try to be deep. Because he's going to try to nickel down and get the ball out quick. It'll be a much quick stuff, so there'll probably be a lot of pressure. They're going to try to get the running game going. Minnesota has to. So I think it's going to be a real aggressive Rams defense. So yeah, I mean, that's similar to what we've seen, sure. But you got to bend the break and make sure the case doesn't pick you apart with a little slants like it did the Rim last year.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I think that a Case Keenum can be picked off if the pressure is applied up front, making him throw off of the foot he's not accustomed to throwing on, allowing balls to be batted, intercepted, whether it be at the line or maybe by a defensive back. I really think that he may have a problem up front there, being able to complete those third and longs, or maybe even a third and short, because this is how good the Rams have been playing all season long. And I know you don't want to answer who the best team in the NFC is, but obviously we can have the conversation about who's best in the West. And right now, it's the Rams. Seattle Seahawks are trailing very close behind at 6-3. Do the Seattle Seahawks find ground, let's just say, this weekend?
Well, I don't know. It is 2 horse race in the West, that's for sure. I mean, in those, I would expect to see that playoffs are going to go through one of those 2 teams in the West, and hopefully the Rams have a record, and it goes through Coliseum rather than up Seattle. But that's where it's looking at. I mean, right now, everything's going through Philly. I don't know who's going to beat those guys yet until we show up.
Well, we're certainly going to find out. They're on a collision course, just like the Rams and the Saints are on that collision course. I think it's all going to come to a head. It's about execution. It's about who makes the least amount of mistakes in all 3 phases of the game. Of course, every coach wants it perfect. Doesn't always work that way. Do the Rams find a win in Minnesota this Sunday?
Well, I think they have the opportunity to do it. I really do. I think they get on and cause some issues. So, on the road, it's always a tough thing. The teams have been playing really well on the road. So if they keep that up, I think the advantage has to be the Rams. I think that when we're going, you mentioned New Orleans before. I think it's as much as a story about Los Angeles Rams offense and changed from last year to this year. You have to say the same thing about New Orleans defense from last year to this year. I mean, wow.
Oh, yeah, huge difference.
They were a sieve.
They absolutely were. They had probably one of the youngest secondaries in the NFL. Enter in Bob Rose, who talks about the Saints, who reports on the Saints. Bob, Jim Everett has a very good point here. We're talking about how bad the Saints were last year. Getting rid of Keenan Allen, not re-signing him for any reason whatsoever. Why? I have no idea. Going for the youth drive. I'm not sure what they were doing. Sean Payton making the decision to cut guys like Roy LaFrance, who I had the pleasure to interview right here on the show. And they're now winners of 7 in a row. Does the secondary of the Saints, are they feeding off of what's being done up front on that Saints defensive line?
I actually think that thanks for having me on the show, guys. Great segue, by the way. But I think that this defense is actually fed from the back to the front. The biggest change that we have seen is the change that they made at quarterback position. Marshawn Lattimore, the 11th overall pick, he's got to be your favorite defensive rookie of the year right now, I think. Obviously, they're talking to very favorite homers point of view. But you're not only him, but the second year man Ken Brawley on the other side, he's got to be touchdown tendencies too. And what that's doing for coordinator Dan Allen's game plan is allowing him to bring extra pass rush if he chooses to. The first 50% of the games, they blitz with 50% of the time. Now up front, you've got Cam Jordan, the defensive end. He's a Pro Bowl type of defender. One of the worst defensive linemen in the league. Meaning in the run and that mode. Their problem in the last 4 or 5 years has been being able to bring pass rushers from other points on the field. And the 9 Alex 04, is crazy from Arizona. And Oakford played extremely well against the run. And you get solid and pass rush opportunities as well. With that still and spreading the opponent's offensive line out a little bit. You got to have 2 men to flush forward, and now you have to respect Oakford on the other side. And then the defensive tackles, Rankin and Armada, are getting pushed up the middle and allowing them to spread that offensive line even further than that. And that's what makes the blitz game even more effective. But the truth is that I think it all starts with how well they're covering the outside slot receivers the opposite range.
No, and you're absolutely right about that. I look at the Saints and I think to myself, man, defensively they're sort of getting it done. They're great on 3rd and long. They're great on 3rd and short. Winners of 7 in a row after starting 0-2. That's an amazing feat. That really has me, I don't know, just kind of blown away. But what's even more interesting is that when you look on the other side of the ball with a guy like Drew Brees, I mean, come on, you can't say, I don't think there's enough conversation around Drew Brees and what he has done this year with Mark Ingram. Obviously, they did have Adrian Peterson cutting him, finding his way onto an Arizona team that needed an identity in the run game. I think Adrian Peterson certainly brought that to the Cardinals, even though they don't have much of an identity in a quarterback position. That's a whole other conversation. Clearly, they're 4-5, not doing very well. But I look at the Saints at 7-2. They have a really stiff test at home. Or it could be maybe a less than stiff test. Maybe the Redskins will actually show up to play, make those completions on 3rd and long, be able to stop Mark Ingram at the line. I don't see that happening. The offensive line has been absolutely short of nothing but stellar for the Saints this year. I know I'm going to pick the Saints at home because the Saints are great at home, and you can't really ask how day. It's more like who day, because right now that's exactly what's going on. They have their identity, but who's going to beat the Saints? Do the Redskins have a chance in this scenario, Bob?
Yeah, I think they really do. If I'm a follower of the Redskins, I actually kind of like this matchup in their favor, and the reason is this. The Redskins aren't going to press anything much of a running game, I don't think. They just put their top rushers last year on injury reserve on Kelly. So they're going to come in and change with a variety of different receivers, tight ends, Chris Thompson out of the backfield. The last time these two teams played, Kirk Cousins had 80% completion percentage and threw 4 touchdowns without a pick. That was a much different thing in defense, like you guys talking about when I jump on. But still, I mean, Cousins, if the Redskins offensive line is able to give him a little bit of protection, he does a great job at finding second and third read options. And I think this is the biggest test of the Saints secondary they face quite some time. Because remember, as well as New Orleans played, they didn't have to face Aaron Rodgers. James Winston and Matthew Stafford were both a little bit banged up and they played him. You can only play who's on your schedule, so those guys still brought a bunch of talent to the field, and they did a great job of shutting them down. The Redskins, they won't hesitate to throw the ball on every down, so I think they did an immediate test. They're the young game defense. And the question you have to ask any young football team is when they start to have success, how are we going to handle it? Are they going to be able to keep this whole going? Are they going to be able to stick to the fundamentals to start to step everything when you in the first place? I personally think they can, and I think they will win the game, but I have a feeling it's going to be a lot higher than what people say.
Hey, I got to jump on real quick, Rudy, because I got a roll. Al and Rudy, Washington just put 30 points up on Minnesota, never lost a game. State's playing pretty good. But they have the ability to put up a lot of points. And I really like that they have on the interior. Not about the exterior, as far as, running back, tight end, what system does Washington. I think they're going to have a real opportunity. And there's a Drew Brees back with 4 touchdowns. He didn't see us throw me last week. But I think that Minnesota defense is very similar. Built on it with a good secondary, and then with that pass rush up front. Very similar to New Orleans, same kind of format. So I think there's a lot of changes that I think Washington can point out. See if they can answer. Anyways, I like your Rams, Minnesota. Really like your show, buddy.
Hey, thanks, Jim. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate your time. Thanks, man. Take care. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, that was Jim Everett, former quarterback for the LA Rams, 2 years removed from actually being under center. Bob Rose is still here with me on the Rude Dog Show. Thanks for tuning in. Go to iQuestMedia.ca if you want the website, the way you want it, and how you want to. Go to iQuestMedia.ca to get what you need and what you're looking for. Bob, last but of course never least. Why? Because the New Orleans Saints have revived themselves, revived their ability to be talked about in the NFC South. I don't believe there's enough conversation surrounding who they are, but their numbers are speaking for themselves. Drew Brees stating the other day in an interview, his claim was he's not going anywhere. He's not leaving New Orleans. Does Drew Brees re-sign another contract to play for, maybe does he extend his contract, rework his contract to play for another 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely agree with Rudy that I don't think he's going anywhere. There's been no indication, the same one Drew go anywhere, and there's certainly been no indication that Brees himself wants to go anywhere. He's a nice spot in New Orleans. I mean, he and Sean Payton helped rebuild that franchise in 2006 they arrived. And I mean, Brees is looked at as the best player in franchise history, very close compared with Rick Jackson as far as franchise history. Drew, you've seen a little bit of a little tiny bit of a decline in the game. But I mean, he's still like a shooter back there in the pocket. He's completely passes at almost 72% rate right now. They finally have some balance around them in the running game, where we think the last couple weeks, they have, like you said, the Saints haven't had to throw the ball to win. They've only three in the past game as a compliment to what they're doing on defense and what they're doing in the running game. I absolutely think that he rewards his contract, and he's going to end his career in New Orleans. I don't think there's any question about it.
No, I don't either. When you look at a guy like Drew Brees, what he's been doing all season long, helping pull guys in, and I think that once he does retire, could end up still being on the New Orleans Saints coaching squad, being given the opportunity to do so. That remains to be seen. But right now, the guy under center for the New Orleans Saints, who have a very stiff challenge, and I don't think it comes from the Redskins necessarily. Why? Because the Redskins, Kirk Cousins has not really shown a whole lot other than being interception prone. It was something that he was really biting about, last year. Can he be the guy? I think the Redskins have more questions about him being the guy under center for the long term versus the short term. But the closest team in the NFC who could give them any type of problem because of that read option situation is Cam Newton and the Carolina Panthers. They're getting healthy. They're getting all the guys back. Of course, you witnessed their shellacking in Carolina last week. But does the Carolina Panthers, are they the legitimate contenders to really give Drew Brees and this defensive front for the Saints a problem?
Oh, absolutely, they're contenders. And, don't forget about the Atlanta Falcons either. They're not quite right, and it's hard to say, put your finger on what's going on with them. But Carolina right now is only half game behind New Orleans in the standings. Now, the Saints have already gone into Carolina and put a nice little beat down on them once. They'll face each other in a few weeks in the zone. But I think Carolina has the style of play that can give New Orleans trouble. Because look at this New Orleans defense over the last 8 or 7 winning streak. One thing that is concerning to us to follow the team is that the defense does give up 1 or 2 big rushing plays per game. Other than that, they control the running game pretty well. As we all know, the Carolina Panthers roll based off of Cam Newton and that running game. And if they can break off a couple of runs into the New Orleans front, which sometimes has trouble with the containment and the gap integrity, then they can make their next game into a real dogfight. And not only that, they're right there in the advantage. So, if they slip up for a game or two, Carolina is going to be right there to have fun. So, I absolutely think they're a legitimate contender.
Yeah, I do as well. Cam Newton being very deadly when that run option actually is opted in and he takes it to the house. I think some of those things where you talk about Cam Newton and how I'm not a really big fan of his from a personal standpoint. As an athlete, I still have questions about his resilience, being able to really grab the ball when he needs to, just like in the Super Bowl when he didn't, which was a game-changing play. I think it was a bang-bang play. I think his decision-making processes weren't quite there yet. And again, I still have questions surrounding his decision-making processes in regard to how he corresponds with media. No, there isn't an actual outline how he talks to media, but in the way that he talks to them, how he talks to them, what he tells them, and how he tells them says a lot about who he is. I'm not asking to, shine his shoes for him or what have you, but when you look at him from a personal standpoint, he has matured, but I think with Cam Newton, you get what you get.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And I mean, the man's history cannot say otherwise. He struggled a little bit with the public majority, and the way he handles the press, the way he handles the public in general. Basically, he shows his frustration and where's the motion on his sleeve. And as someone who tends to do that myself, I realize that you're almost fighting yourself when you're frustrated or things aren't going well. But you're the quarterback of an NFL franchise. You're one of the faces of the league. You would have been well suited to pay attention to the way a gentleman like Rudy Reyes or Tom Brady, or even the great quarterbacks you had on Jim Everett, the way he handled his media for the most part of his career. They Cam and the people around him should have done a better job of fighting him about that. But you got to say that this is a man too. I mean, his teammates always had his back too. So that tells me a little bit about what kind of teammate guy is. I guess if I was the coach of Carolina Panthers, I would rather have a good teammate than guys who might say or do the wrong thing in a press conference every now and then.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. He's certainly somebody that you want to look at. You want to build the team around the guy, but for some reason, being a better teammate obviously counts for being somebody who's better with the media. So if it gives them the leg up and the winning, whatever formula that they have going on in Carolina, clearly it's working for them, regardless of what players say to media or what they don't say to media and how they respond and the ways that they do respond. You can never tell, at least with Cam Newton, or you can never tell what he's going to come out wearing. But with that, I'm not a fashionista. This is Rudy Reyes on the Rude Dog Show. That's why I'm behind a microphone, and I don't play in the National Football League. I may have fashion sense, but as I say, there is no dollars without dollars. It makes no sense. Bob, hey, man, thanks a lot. I appreciate you joining me here on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Mr. Everett, I wish I had a chance to talk to you more, but it was a pleasure being on with you as well. If you're still listening.
Thanks, Bob. Appreciate it. We'll talk soon.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, man. Take care. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, it's Bob Rose, and of course the former Rams quarterback Jim Everett joining me right here on the Rude Dog Show on barnburner.ca. Go to iQuestmedia.ca for all your website needs. And I have no issue with my nose, just so you know, Joe. Anyway, this is Rudy Reyes on the Rude Dog Show on barnburner.ca. Now back to your regularly scheduled program. Thanks for tuning in.